Okay, it is preparing to go live now. So as soon as it's done, I will shut that window and we'll get started. I do have some items, there we go, that like a list of questions and things that came up this past week for potential conversation topics or whatever. But today, October 12th is, I don't know, what is it? We're starting another Tuesday talk with church communicators. My name is Christina Dillabo. I'm the Director of Communications for the Desert Southwest Conference. And today's topic was about some of our common struggles. Number one, I mean, I know I am really happy to know that I've got a great team of communicators that I can rely on to bounce ideas around or to help me strategize on, you know, what needs to be tackled first, second, third, whatever, and hear just a whole other perspective. And that alone has been very helpful. And I love that in these Tuesday talks, sometimes there's questions and others have the answer to it, or at the very least, yeah, that happens to me too. One of the things I just discovered this last week, seems kind of silly, but there is some strength in finding out that you're not the only one that's struggling. And knowing that has helped. I was having a conversation with my kids about it, about school, and that alone has helped them move forward and figure out the solution instead of staying stuck in their heads with the cycle of like, oh, I can't, why am I always struggling with this, da da da. So for both of those reasons, that's why I thought, you know what, that's a really good topic for a Tuesday talk. And I hope you guys have some struggles to share. I do have a list of stuff that I can go over that others have shared before. So without any more conversation, who wants to go first? Share some struggle you've had in the past or right now. And we've all struggled with something. Go ahead, Jim.
We have from our governing board meeting last night, we're a small church and we have a part-time pastor and only one paid staff member who is the custodian. So, and that's only part-time too. So we were facing the usual things like, you know, how we're dealing all with volunteers for all the mission projects and so forth they're working on. So it then becomes, how can we focus? And that was a big topic of conversation last night. There was several suggestions that we do more outreach, but quite frankly, we don't have the resources to do that. And that's not only staff, but money, you know, it becomes a real problem. So I think there were some people in our volunteer staff that were feeling very, beleaguered would be a good word.
You know, I remember you mentioning in like a few weeks ago about that outreach. If your community is a different ethnic background than the majority in your church, how do you make that connection? And I did see an article where one church shared their process from being a very small church to over 6 years going up to, it was over 1,000 members, and they're very diverse. And it was a pretty good article. I'll share that with you guys, but anybody have that kind of experience at some point at your church where, like, you know, you've got to do these different things, but how do you do it with such a limited budget and limited people to do it? Or you guys all have all the money in the world?
Yeah, that kind of piggybacks on, or that very much aligns with what I was going to say. I was going to say my biggest challenges are finding volunteers and just figuring out how to get it all done, because there's not enough time.
So what do you guys do in the meantime? Because you do get stuff done. Carla has her hand up.
So, Jim, have you guys thought about creating a a list. I know it sounds simple and, but right now you seem overwhelmed by the fact that you don't have the resources to do what you need to do. But if you created a list and with the different things on the list, maybe put together a time commitment that would be required and a dollar amount, and you made that available to some of your people, you might get some people that might want to volunteer. Last night at the leadership talk, it was talked about how people are now seem to be a little reluctant to take long-term commitments. But if you have something on that list that's maybe short, and it may be something that you just don't, you don't want to do, and so you think, well, we can't do it, but there may be somebody there who that's right up their alley, and they would love to do it, and what could take it on. And it may not be the highest priority on your list, but if you got people interested in different things that could be good outreach activities, you might get some new people volunteering. Same comment to Chris too. If you listed the options that you have, you might find somebody, and sometimes you have to let people volunteer for the things that you like to do just because they're willing to do that.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Carla. That's essentially what we were doing last night in our governing board meeting, trying to get people to focus on our core values and what we were trying to do. But yes, doing a list and asking for commitments, for short-term commitments from people. I think most people view it as, if they volunteer to work in the food pantry one weekend a month, they're going to be asking, daily, and they simply don't have time for that.
Go ahead, Shelley.
There's something new we're doing this year. I don't know how everybody else does their budget every year, but we have a stewardship campaign every fall, and people send in commitment cards. And we got a new pastor this summer, and something she brought with her from her previous church was this idea of not putting only financial commitments on the commitment cards, but really focusing on our 5 vows that we take as Methodists. And so in addition to there being a place now for people to put how much they plan to give in the coming year, there's also a place on the card where people can check off the different areas that they're interested in to fulfill their service vow. And we're hoping to get some good feedback from that. We're still in the beginning stages of it, so I can't tell you how well it's working for us, but that's just a new thing we're trying right now. Because we're having a hard time. We've always had very good volunteer involvement in our church, but we're having a hard time getting people to come back now that we're reopening. And people keep saying, oh, well, when the Welcome Center is open again, well, we need volunteers for that. And it just, there's all kinds of stuff similar to that we keep hearing. And it's like, come on, people.
Yeah, for sure. I remember early in my marriage when my kids were really little, we didn't have a whole lot of money. I think at that time I was a stay-at-home mom, or I just started a part-time job, and we were pretty active in our church, and we saw that as part of our giving. Like, we can't increase our financial giving. We can only do so much, but we can give more of our time. And so we ended up getting really involved in Sunday school stuff, and we started leading small groups with adults, and that made us feel like we were contributing and being a faithful member to the church. So it was a great opportunity for us, and it actually helps the church as well. So great idea. Go ahead, Corby. And welcome. Got to unmute first.
Sorry. Okay. I'm in a new position. It's been since COVID has been, so I've actually been there 1.5 years. But one of the issues that I realized right away is that church had disconnected from the community, and not just the community around them, but ministry that is on our church property. We have a garden, our neighbor's farm and pantry. So we have a garden and a pantry, and there's only one person out of the whole church and myself that help. in the pantry or the garden. And so in trying to unravel this, they don't participate in the scouting programs. They don't participate in any kind of community meal. We did this 2 Sundays ago because I said, you know, we're going to take a turn. This is going to be fun. And it was fun. But it's that whole dance with, we've never done that, or we haven't done that for a long time. And it's kind of overwhelming at this point, how to get them engaged. And in the process of getting people engaged, we've had people leave because they don't want to do that. Yeah.
So you have the opportunity, but you don't, obviously you can't force people to do it, but I guess
Right.
I'm lost on why people would leave over participating.
I'm not sure what the am I muted? Oh, okay. I'm not sure what the problems have been because people really aren't talking about them, but I think it was a process of them pulling back and not knowing who's using their building. We had AA groups and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and a mother's group and Bible studies, but most of the people just say, well, that's their stuff. We just let them use the building. But in building a church, we have to be bringing those people in to be a part of the family, not just one day a week, but a part of the family. So any suggestions?
That is a tough one. I've noticed that with scouting in particular, like trying, you know, if it's an older congregation and you're hosting a scout troop, how do you get involved if, you know, the members don't have kids in the troop? I know at the church where our boys troop was at, it was the exact same type of membership as at our church, an older congregation, but they kept pretty involved with the scouts. I think, I mean, besides like the Scout Sundays, they, in scouting at least, you've got your merit badges and things that you could teach, right, as an adult. And so you could just, hey, well, I'll sign up to be a merit badge leader for this topic because that used to be my field, or this is my hobby and there's a merit badge for that. I mean, scouting, that makes it easy enough, but maybe there's something like that, like, and if you were to open up, kind of like Carla said, it might not be something that's interesting to you, whatever the different groups are that are meeting at your church, but just by sharing information, asking those groups, hey, can you write a newsletter? Tell us about your organization. We want to tell our church about you. Because there might be potential members for your organization at our church. So asking them to share some news that you can put in the newsletter, and maybe that will inspire members to participate, and that would be that relationship bridge, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Oh, good idea, Shelley. Yeah. Sorry. Shelley had in the comments that her mom was a nurse, so she always led the first aid badge workshop. And, you know, that's also something else. I know at our church, we had a preschool on campus, and the preschool teachers had to have first aid training every so often to update their fingerprint cards. And so did our scouting troops. So even letting those other organizations know about opportunities where, look, we're getting a first aid certification trainer to come to our campus on this day. If your organization needs the same type of training, we're open to including you. These are the times where you can let us know, you know, just find different things like that where you can collaborate and help each other out. Or if they're hosting it, hey, can we bring some of our members there? Because we need that for safe sanctuaries, maybe. Betty has something to share. She says, Willowbrook in Sun City is having a homecoming celebration with emphasis on people returning, our snowbirds, and everyone returning to church since we're open. And there is work to do. The celebration includes a guest speaker, a meal, entertainment, games, and more. So Betty, do you mean maybe invite the other organizations to come to that celebration? Well, it's via chat. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, that's where this is coming from. There's stuff in the chat and what organizations? Sorry, Betty, I was reading maybe your text message was in relationship to something else and not about how to connect your church with those organizations that might be renting space on your campus. So I was thinking that that's what the homecoming celebration was about, but maybe you're just sharing. So thank you for sharing. So if you are watching on YouTube, now might be a good time for you to hit the subscribe button or like if you want to be able to see other videos like this in your feed when you're on YouTube. Don't want to miss the next Tuesday talk or whatever. If you do that, it'll pop up when you're in YouTube, in your YouTube feed. Okay, now back to common things that are going on. Hey, David, welcome aboard. So one of the things that I had ran across recently is about scheduling a Facebook Live event using an iPad. So at this particular church, they were doing a Facebook Live on a regular basis. We already had it all scheduled, or not we, they did. And at some point they lost that connection. I don't know what happened. They still had access to the Facebook page. Everything was working fine, but they no longer had their reoccurring events. Like, I think I maybe deleted it and now I don't know how to get back in there. Well, we know there's been updates with Facebook. It's not just on the laptop version. Sounds like maybe even on the iPad version. So I'm going to send you guys the steps that I shared with that church for them to be able to get back in and schedule it. I'm bringing it up because I thought it was really interesting as I was working with this person, because I don't use Facebook on an iPad. So I didn't have it all like, oh yeah, then you'll see this here and you'll see that there. Like, I didn't have that visual memory of the interface. What I found out is just like there's Facebook helps, you know, if you Google something, you'll see all sorts of articles from Facebook about how to do this, how to do that. When you're looking for something specifically for an iPhone or iPad, it's included in the URL. And so when you go to Facebook's help stuff, and you're looking specifically for help about an iPad on how to do this on Facebook, and you click on another link, and now the iPad part might be missing, you can add that back into the URL and it'll magically customize back to instructions about doing this whatever on an iPad or an iPhone. So I thought that was pretty cool, and would share with you guys in case it's helpful down the road. Okay, so what's another common, some struggle you've had in the past? Or more about connecting renter organizations with your church ministries, how your church can get more involved. David, you look like you want to say something.
I always do. Oops, it says, no, I thought it said I was muted. Connecting, yeah, with our community ministry, community, trying to get the community more involved in our church is a challenge. And so I think there's things we need to do intentionally at our church to, we were sending out like all these postcards to new residents, but that was getting kind of expensive because they're building a lot of houses around us. So now we're trying to look at other ways of getting out there. And we go to like community functions that are done by the town, but that doesn't always result in people showing up, that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
that is an ongoing challenge, is being seen by new people.
Yeah. So here's another ongoing challenge is phishing attempts, computer purchasing help, like needing advice on, oh, we need to upgrade, who can help me? Just having ongoing tech support. I've mentioned before that we use GCFA, and that I don't remember if I shared in a Tuesday talk that they're actually available even for just one-offs if you just need their assistance for 1 hour, or if you want to set up a regular plan with them, they can do that. And I'll include the contact information in the email that I send to you guys, but I know one of our churches recently did connect with them, and she was telling me that they signed up for one of their services. I don't remember which one it is. And she's like, it's only $4 a month. And it's great to know that we've got this tech support available. And the nice thing about GCFA is they're not like, I don't mean to talk bad about any other tech support company, but it's not like Geek Squad or Data Doctors or anything like that. They're not a for-profit organization. They're part of us. They are the United Methodist Church, and it's one of the services available to our churches. And we get to take advantage as a collective of their collective discounts. So, I can't recommend them enough. They do get pretty busy sometimes. They've got their busy times, so you might have a little bit of a delay on getting the support you need. But it's nice to know that there's a whole team out there that's available, and technically they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But just know that in the evenings and weekends, it's like a doctor's office. It's one person on call, whoever's on schedule. So you don't get the whole team all day, every day. But yeah. Okay, any other items? I can keep going. And actually, since David's here, I'll give him a plug, and maybe he's not looking for more. he's always so busy. But yeah, we've had a lot of churches needing help with connecting back to their Facebook. Maybe there's a music or sound issue, like a technology thing having to do with the worship soundboard and connecting it to maybe to streaming, or what microphone should I be using, or I keep getting this echo, or why don't we get clear sound in the live stream broadcast? So many things like that having to do with worship streaming, having to do with copyright issues, having to do with connecting your online presence. David, I think you've even helped quite a few of our churches set up online giving as well, right?
A little bit, yeah. My biggest area is about website solutions, and especially if they're wanting to move from one to another and save some money, because I've discovered lately a number of churches that are spending like $600 a year or more to GoDaddy on website stuff, because they've been upsold a bunch of services that they may or may not need. So, and I generally move them to the solution, because yeah. And oh, by the way, that I've seen some communications coming from those of you who are using the UMC churches, that they're trying to clean up their billing procedures and stuff, because I don't think they were always really as assertive on that. So just FYI, everybody needs to make sure that they've got an active email address receiving those communications, because I think they're going to crack down a little more firmly on, okay, it's due in 30 days, please do pay that, that kind of thing.
That's a beautiful segue into another very common church thing that I've noticed that has to do with, like, I received this random bill for a website domain, or for a listing of my website domain, or some website services. Do we use that? And like, I don't remember hiring this company, but we got this bill. Do we have to pay it? We would even get those at the conference too. So you're not alone, it happens. And so I don't know what bills you're getting, so I can't just say, no, you don't have to pay it, because it might be something that you do. So don't just dismiss it, but one thing you can do actively right now is make sure that someone at your church, the pastor, the office administrator, whoever it is, someone at your church has the information of what all do we need to pay for to keep our website up? Where is our website being hosted? Where is our domain registered? Do we have a security, what is that called? Security certificate. Do we pay for that? Do we, what are the different things that go into keeping our website up? What credit card is being used to bill that? What email address is receiving the notifications? Because once in a while, it might be a notification about, hey, we're letting you know up front that we're gonna have sites going down or something along those lines during these hours on the, maybe on a middle of the night, on a weekend night or something. So knowing that up front, you could let people know, or at least for yourself, you don't have to panic if you happen to go on the website and, oh no, where is it? It's just a routine maintenance thing. So, oh, okay, it's fine. So yeah, just make sure that you've got that stuff cleaned up, not cleaned up, but that what email address is the registered email address for your website accounts. That'll help you figure out if something is legitimate or not legitimate. But there is a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot. I just know we get them, and I've been hearing from churches that they're getting these. I even have a screen capture of one of the bills that came into one of our churches saying, you owe us. It was like $200 something for a website listing. And it's like, do we use this company? I don't know. So it's important to go through your stuff, have a list, and maybe it's your finance person that would need to have that list so that they can on their own figure out, oh, okay, yeah, this is not good. This is legitimate. Thanks for that, David. And that was another one. Another common question that I get is, what's the most common online giving tool that churches are using? I don't know that answer. I can tell you which one it is that we were recommending for a while. And I've heard of other churches that use it. So one of them was Easy Tithe, but the one we were recommending was tithe.ly. And it's mostly because it was pretty easy, and I think it was free. There might be some paid versions of it, but the real basic one that we were setting up churches with was a free one. It's tithe.ly. And we talked about setting up an account with GuideStar, because if you're going to be listed as a nonprofit organization somewhere, having that presence on GuideStar kind of expedites that process. Facebook uses GuideStar as one of the ways to verify that you are a nonprofit organization. There's a group ruling certification letter from GCFA that you can get that has your church's name on it, so that you can have that official document to turn in your information. Shelley says they use Vanco for giving. So, oh, you don't know about the arrangements. I was curious, David, do you know, oh, and they offer a mobile giving app, nice. Through Vanco, you could do an online, like a donate button straight to your Vanco account, right? Chris is not
Definitely. And so that's probably, if that relationship already exists with a church, and many of them do have that, they should probably look at that first, because then there's no additional hoops to jump through. They can basically just add that to their website, and that works. Well, the nice thing about Vanco is it's very flexible with all the recurring things and such as you can set up. And that's so important to try to get some people, get them signed up, because then it just comes in automatically.
Gotcha. Now I see what you're talking about. Yeah, setting up your online giving as a reoccurring gift, right? Almost like, well, it's a reoccurring bill in banking terms, but church terms, reoccurring gift.
Yep.
Great idea. Another one that I had was about broadcasting your in-person worship to YouTube, Facebook, or Vimeo, and ideally using Zoom. The question was specifically about using a webinar to broadcast, like the multi-cams that you might have at your church, and the with the slides and, you know, all that stuff into that webinar and going out also to YouTube or Facebook or wherever. So I had sent a few links to there was one church that I worked with last week, and I'm bringing that up. I'll send you guys the links that I sent that church. One of them was a link to a webinar that we had a while back with a Vimeo representative. Super, really great webinar. Lots of really good information in the beginning about why you want to live stream. At this point, I think we're all pretty much all live streaming. So I'd say if you don't have a whole lot of time, fast forward and start watching at about the 20-minute mark, and then keep watching it. There's a lot of really good information about equipment and how it all works together. And I don't remember something about the whole process of doing it. And then right around the 40-minute mark, there's a discount code that the guy offers for our United Methodist churches in the Desert Southwest Conference that are interested in starting a new account with Vimeo or upgrading their account. And Vimeo and Livestream are now the same company, but you can, the last time I messed with it, it looked like you can have an account with Livestream, but not necessarily be taking advantage of all Vimeo stuff, or a Vimeo account, but not necessarily doing anything with Livestream. So it can seem a little confusing, but you're not alone. That was the other piece. So I was bringing it up because of what happened this last week with this one church. They're talking about their little red box that they use to broadcast stuff, and they were having a heck of a time connecting it. Can you guys help us? And I thought, oh, we have a little red box too, and it's through Livestream. So yeah, I'll talk to you about it. Sent them some videos, and I didn't realize that maybe this is what Chris is going to talk about, is that the little red box no longer works. And I connected them with another church, and that's how I found out about it. We haven't had to do this in a while because of COVID. So now we're going to need to switch to something else too. But the church that I connected them with was with Gold Canyon, and they were explaining how they switched from using the little red box to using Black Magic, I think is what it's called. And that worked out for them. Apparently you can't even buy those little red boxes anymore. They're obsolete. They're not providing support for them anymore. What were you going to share, Chris?
Well, another issue that they might be having is if Facebook has a rule that if you're simulcasting to Facebook, you can't also simulcast to other platforms. So if they were trying, like if they had Facebook and were trying to also broadcast to YouTube or Zoom and things like that, that might be part of the issue too.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if any of you are using Vimeo, because one of the really cool things about Vimeo simulcasting is that, like if you broadcast from Zoom, we can only broadcast out to one location. But if you're broadcasting out from Zoom to Vimeo, Vimeo can take that and push it out to a bunch of different locations. So has anybody had that problem with Facebook and other accounts if you're using Vimeo to simulcast?
Well, it's not a Vimeo rule, it's a Facebook rule.
So even if you're, because the nice thing about Vimeo is it made it seem like if you're only going to that one account, because Vimeo is the one that's, I don't know how they do it.
Right. So we use Vimeo live stream. And you can only do to Facebook, or to, if you wanted to do like YouTube and then a couple other platforms, you can do that, but you can only pick Facebook.
Wow. Is that a recent thing, or has that been happening for a little while?
It's at least a couple months, but it's a pain.
So what do you guys work around? Do you still broadcast to Facebook in any way?
We are. I'm thinking about doing like one service to Facebook and then one to YouTube, but right now we're posting, we're simulcasting to Facebook and then just posting the recordings to YouTube and other channels.
Okay. Helpful. Thank you. Good idea. Go ahead, Shelley.
We've been doing pre-recorded services during this whole pandemic time, and we're gradually making plans to move away from that and go back to live streaming. But I will say that a few months ago, we actually just stopped posting the services on Facebook, because Facebook got really picky with, they would make entire parts of our service be silent because they said we didn't have the license for those songs when we totally did. So now we just post a link on Facebook to our YouTube channel, where people can click on that and go watch the service on YouTube. And I assume that's something we'll continue with once we do an actual live stream again.
Thanks. And another thing that I had, I'm trying to figure out how's a good way of saying this one. So same type of thing about streaming to Facebook and copyright issues. In case anyone that's watching or when we receive the email is, if any of our churches were ever thinking, I mean, what's the big deal? It's just this one, or we used to use this all the time and now we can't use it. Come on, we can't afford to pay for all these extra licenses or whatever. I have a terrible memory, so I wanted to be able to quote you guys exact numbers of what I've seen when a church does get, I'll say, slapped with the copyright fine. I just don't remember exactly, but it was, I want to say it was either like 20,000 something or 40,000 something. Like, it's pretty steep. Like, that's part of why for the conference we worked out this group discount plan and now manage all the, repayments or whatever, keeping all these copyright licenses and now streaming as well, covered through the conference, because it's a big deal. Like, that's not something you want to play around with and just see if you can get by or try to find an alternate way of doing it. If your church members are the ones maybe that are saying like, hey, we just can't afford that, but we've got to keep worship going. Like, it's super important. Don't use the songs that are not under your copyright license. Do something else. Have no music if that's the only way you can. I mean, we've got songs available. That's why we have the conference licenses. So work with your worship leader, work with your worship team, whatever, convince them. I'm going to send you guys some links to some information about copyright fines, not to scare anybody, but it really is something that we got to take seriously. If nothing else, for the financial implications. We already started out this session saying we're super limited on funds and people and resources. So don't set yourself up for a situation where you're going to be liable and out thousands of dollars. And that's just on one copyright infringement. What else? I mean, we don't have to use up the whole hour. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of other questions going on, so I'm gonna wrap us up. I often get questions about, is there a resource on blah, blah, blah? I thought I saw an article about da-da-da. Where can I find that? Are there scholarships on blah, blah, all sorts of different questions, even once in a blue moon, some type of theological question. I know I don't have to tell you guys again, but I'm no pastor. I don't know all this stuff, and I don't have all the resources memorized. So one of my quick go-tos is to go to InfoServe for the United Methodist Church. If you go to umc.org, or I think even Resource UMC has a link to it, at the very, very top of their website, you'll see a tiny link that says Ask the UMC. I'll send you guys the direct link to their form, but if you click on the Ask the UMC link, you'll get to the first page where you could either live chat with someone or click to enter that online form where you could ask anything. One of the questions that I entered in there last week, because I got this question via text, was, is there a link that talked about Christian conversation for meetings instead of Robert Rules of Order? It was about voting using consensus. So I didn't know. So I put that in InfoServe, and they've got a team of people that are working on this stuff. So later that day, I got my email response about how the Book of Discipline nowhere requires that Robert Rules of Order needs to be used. It doesn't even mention it. And indeed, paragraphs 252.3b recommends that a consensus or discernment model be used by the church council, and they provide the link to it. And it goes a little bit more detail. I don't know if you guys want to see all that, but I'm going to send it to you because I mentioned it. So with that said, unless there's anything else that you guys want to share, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up today's Tuesday talk. Thank you so much for your questions, your ideas, comments. I think this is a pretty good Tuesday talk. If you guys ever have a topic request, idea, whatever, don't be shy, send me an email, give me a call. You'll notice that my cell phone number is also included in the email that I send out to everybody. So it's at the very bottom of the signature information. So you got my contact information. You can send me a text if you want a quick discussion, or we could schedule a Zoom session. With all that, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. See you guys